Necessary Evil of Nathan Miller. Book 2 in the Nightmares Trilogy. Written by Demelza Carlton. Autonarrated by AI Charlotte from Google. 46. In the morning, Nathan headed off home, promising to return that night and take me out to dinner. I'd fallen asleep far too early last night, so I had an extra hour of piano practice to put in before starting any other exercises. I'd finally managed to limber up my fingers enough to work a bass line beneath the melody that wouldn't leave me alone. One more run through and I'd write it down. A heavy knocking jarred with my timing. I stopped playing and stood, making my way to the front door. As I approached, I heard a gruff voice say, "Sit. Caesar, sit." I smiled and threw the door open, unlocking the screen door before I could even see him clearly. "Good morning, Bruce. What can I do for you?" Bruce looked hard at me as if he couldn't decide which weighty matter to bring up first. "It's good to see you home, Caitlin. Wendy and I didn't believe anyone could hate you enough to do something like this. The bastard should be castrated and hung. They should bring back the death penalty for people like them." I fought to keep the smile on my face as I nodded my agreement. The bastard should be castrated, then their corpses hung up like dead meat. "So I've come to give you Caesar and Cleo," he announced proudly, waving at the two dogs sitting at the bottom of my front steps. The two enormous Rottweilers wagged their stumpy tails. I'd taken these two to training a couple of times for Bruce, so I was on their short list of favorite people. "But I don't have any dog food, Bruce. And you know Dad doesn't like dogs," I began. "While you're home alone, you can keep them in your yard. I'll come over and feed them every day. They'll help protect you." His fierce grin was hard to resist. "You won't have to worry about a thing. If you have any intruders, Caesar and Cleo will take care of them for you. You know how much they love you." Holding carefully to the rail, I proceeded down the steps to the two dogs. I held out my hand for each of them to sniff before I patted them both gently. The dogs did love me, but I wasn't sure I could control them if they attacked someone. They didn't know Nathan. "Bruce," I said carefully, "it's such a lovely, kind offer, but one of my friends is coming to stay with me at night, to keep me company. Caesar and Cleo don't know him. What would I do if they attacked my friend?" He scratched his head. "Ah. Should I just leave you the block splitter then?" I noticed the heavy axe he held by his leg and smiled. "You know I can't lift that. You keep it. If I need help, I know where to come." He seemed agitated, but he knew better than to push me. Bruce had known me since I was 6. "All right," he said finally. "You know if you need any help or anything at all, just ring me or come over. If you get anyone so much as look at you wrong, you run straight to my place and set the dogs on them. I'll leave the gate unlocked." I thanked both him and his two dogs, then watched as all three crossed the road back to his house. I breathed a sigh of relief as I locked the door behind me. Even without Nathan, there was always someone watching out for me. Even my neighbor's scary guard dogs. 47. Thai dark Chris water pills. I awakened and it was still dark. I tried to rub my eyes to see if they were really open, but my hands just didn't move. I ached deep inside from what the bastard had done to me. I tried to stand up, but my feet were forced too close together, my thigh muscles unable to move. I twisted around, trying to see where I was, but there was nothing visible in the darkness. Someone's breathing was the only sound. "Awake?" It came in a barely audible whisper. "Where's Chris?" I demanded. Which Chris, I should have said. The bastard who could barely touch me or the one who broke my fingers and... Slightly louder this time. "Right here." His hand lightly touched my shoulder. My throat was dry as I whimpered, "I need water." No need to defy him. "I know." The cool rim of a cup pressed to my lips. "I'll help you where I can. Here, something for the pain." Pills, then the cup back. I didn't question it, I just took them. I realized I was a drug addict, and I didn't even know what the drug was. My tears chilled my cheeks. I couldn't wipe them away. They flowed down my face unchecked, a tribute to my own weakness. They fell faster. Chris witnessed this, me losing everything I'd ever had. I began to sob uncontrollably. What did it matter? Chris was no one. Untie me and take me home. I begged him. I can't stay here, let me go. Almost totally unhinged, I strained at the ropes that held me, willing there to be a weakness to let me free. All that broke was my skin, blood oozing out of the burning cuts. Warm and strange, the added pain brought on a fresh flood of tears. You have to let me go now, I told him urgently. No, not now. Be patient. He hesitated a moment before he continued, you'll get out of here. If you keep believing it, they can't win. I felt so tired and drowsy, my eyes began to close again. Bullshit, I mumbled. You'll be fine, he soothed. No, I won't, I thought as consciousness faded. 48. Nathan was late. I'd put on lipstick, then chewed it off as I waited. I'd replaced it with the all-day color stuff that stained my lips. I'd played piano until even I'd gotten sick of the sound, so I stretched out on the floor and turned on the TV. Some reality show about people who could dance, or sing, or something. I let the music wash over me as I started another set of physiotherapy exercises. I could feel my legs getting stronger day by day. I even felt sweaty from the exercise. It sure was a warm day for September. Almost October now, where had the year gone? I heard the sound of a car in the driveway. Nathan. Finally. I jumped to my feet, clicking off the TV. I hurried to the door so I could see him. I'd taken particular care to look good tonight. He'd promised to take me out for dinner. Not really a date, but I'd dressed for it anyway. A pretty red satin shirt over dress pants. I felt giddy. Maybe that's why I made such a stupid mistake. I flung the door open and stood on the doorstep, wondering why his engine sounded so loud today. I was halfway down the steps when I realized the car wasn't his. I saw a white convertible, a woman's car, definitely. It still had a crystal hanging from the rear vision mirror, catching the sunlight and throwing rainbows across the dash. Yet it wasn't a woman who climbed out. It was a big, bulky bloke, wearing a heavy coat and cap, so I couldn't see his face at all. It was her. She'd given her car to one of the bastards, and he was here to take me back. My hesitation lasted barely a moment, before I realized that I couldn't go back inside. The only way to survive was to run and hope he didn't catch me. So run I did, bolting through the garden and onto the footpath. I thought of Bruce's guard dogs, but didn't dare cross the road when my pursuer had a car at his disposal. He'd run me down before I could make it to the gate. There were some Moreton Bay fig trees in the park up the road that I might be able to climb. If I could reach them without him seeing me, I could hide up there until he gave up. He couldn't get a car into the park without drawing a hell of a lot of attention, and none of my neighbors would stand for that. I wasn't prepared for the pounding footsteps as he followed me on foot. I tried to speed up, but my muscles screamed. This was the first time I'd tried to run since I got out of hospital, and I wasn't really ready for it. I wasn't ready to die yet, either. Faster. Over my panicked panting, I heard his breathless voice. No, stop. Come back. You can't outrun me. Oh God, it sounded familiar. It had to be one of them, and I had nothing to kill him with. I put on another spurt of speed. I couldn't keep it up much longer, but I knew what would happen if he caught me. It was almost as if he'd read my mind. Come back. Please let me. No. I'd rather die than let you hurt me again. A hand landed heavily on my shoulder. If I'd had enough breath, I'd have screamed. Instead, I tried to shake him off. I hit Margaret's garden edging and lost my footing, tumbling onto her lawn. I rolled as I hit, determined to at least face the man who was trying to kill me. I wanted to spit in his face, as it was the only projectile I had to hand. Maybe I could blind him with phlegm. He pulled the cap off. I almost cried. Angel, are you okay? Nathan asked. How could you scare me like that? Why did you? My throat hurt too much to speak. I could barely breathe. What do you think of my new car? You're a fucking dickhead. You're late because you got a new car? Yes. He looked uncomfortable. I know you didn't like the old one, so I figured it was time for something new. His eyes kept darting every which way except my face. I followed his gaze and saw Margaret, standing with her son's hockey stick. I'd seen her chase an escaped pit bull at the park with that hockey stick. She'd stunned the dog senseless with one swipe. It had still been unconscious when the guys from the pound showed up. She was a mean shot. For a moment, I wondered if I should let her hit Nathan a couple of times for scaring me. I smiled grimly at the thought, before I drove it from my head. I couldn't let her hit him, I'd need his help to get home. And we had a date tonight. The car's fine. Please help me up and back to my house, I said shortly. He slid an arm under my legs, but even that hurt. Just help me walk, I told him, trying to steel myself against the pain I knew it would cost me. Better walking in pain than screaming while he carried me. What would my neighbors think? He protested a bit, but I stayed firm, so he helped me stand. When my legs threatened to collapse beneath me, his supportive arm was the only thing keeping me upright. I smiled at the neighbors we passed, who all seemed to be doing gardening or sports on their front lawns in the last of the evening sunlight. I managed okay until we reached the bottom of the steps to my front door. I leaned heavily against the rail, not sure how I was going to make it up those last few steps. Maybe if I rested for a few minutes and Nathan held the door open, I could stagger in and collapse on the couch. Maybe. No. I couldn't stop now. Had to climb those steps and then I could rest. He swept me up and carried me across the threshold. Rest, I heard him say as he carefully laid me on the couch. With my legs screaming at me, it was hard to do anything else. I couldn't remember hurting this much, not even when the bastards had me. I vaguely remembered something about how the memory of pain fades, but I still wasn't prepared for it. I focused on my breathing. If I could stay conscious, then maybe I could take some pain medication to help it go away. Bruce from over the road came to check that I was okay. I smiled and thanked him, heartened by how helpful my neighbors were. He'd brought the block splitter too, I saw. I made sure to tell him that Nathan was my friend before he headed back home. Nathan asked me if anything had happened while I'd been home alone, and I reassured him that it hadn't. I almost told him about the new song that was taking shape, but I couldn't summon the energy to walk to the piano to play it for him. Another time, maybe. I started to ask about our date, but Nathan was kind enough to postpone it to another night. I relaxed on the couch, finally giving in to the pain, hoping it would fade if I lay still long enough. As if to make up for frightening me, Nathan was more caring than usual. He murmured my name as he stroked my hair, before moving my body into the recovery position I remembered from my first aid courses. How sweet. He thought I was unconscious. He evidently didn't know how incapacitating severe pain could be. It didn't affect my hearing though, as he keyed in a call on his phone. As he spoke to the stranger on the other end of the phone line, I realized he was talking to the person watching the surveillance cameras. He had backup. At first I was relieved, then mortified, as I thought of the times I'd walked around the house without clothes on. I never wanted to meet this surveillance person. If I did, I might have to shoot him. Once he'd ended the call, Nathan leaned over me and stroked my neck. Before I could ask him why, he removed his hand. I heard him turn the TV on. It sounded like he was watching a cooking show. I let the commentary form a dull buzz in my brain, sitting somewhere behind the pane, until someone mentioned a dessert with strawberries. My stomach reminded me it was dinner time, but I'd have given anything for the dessert on the cooking show. I swear I could almost smell it. I wanted strawberries so badly. I knew I had some in the fridge, but I wasn't sure I could walk that far without hurting myself. I looked at Nathan, who was intent on the TV program. I called his name hesitantly, not sure how much to ask him for. Maybe if he could carry me to the kitchen and pull up a chair, I could sit down while I washed and hold the strawberries. He didn't say a word. He just held out the bowl. He'd even sliced them. I could have kissed him. I nearly did. He looked embarrassed, as if he could read my mind. Eat something so you can take pain medication. He nodded at the pills beside a glass of water on the table. I couldn't thank him enough. I wanted to kiss him more than ever, but I banished the thought. I savored my strawberries instead. 49. You've really recovered remarkably well, Althea told me. I wish some of my other patients were as diligent with their exercises as you. She lowered her voice. Just don't overdo it, okay? I nodded and smiled, not bothering to tell her that, by her standards, I probably overdid it every day. I figured it was better to work hard on my recovery than to baby myself and die as a result. If I was meant to die on that beach, it was only a matter of time before they returned for me. And I intended to be ready. I had death to deliver and pain in bulk quantity. Nathan sat in the waiting room, impatiently tapping at the touchscreen on his phone. He looked like he was ordering hits on violent criminals, but I knew he wore that expression when he played games. He pocketed his phone before I reached him though, so I couldn't check to see if I was right. I paid for the session, booked my next appointment, and walked out of the physiotherapy clinic. Nathan matched my steps, offering a welcome arm to help me walk to the car. Tired and hurting, I accepted his assistance and leaned against him as we made slow progress through the car park. How was the session? He asked. Are you recovering well? Yes. She was quite impressed at my progress, I admitted, not meeting his eyes. I didn't want him to know just how well I'd healed. If he thought I didn't need his help, he might not stay with me. I could walk, but I wasn't sure I could defend myself well enough to take them all out if the bastards turned up together. Almost automatically, Nathan lifted me into the car and fastened my seatbelt for me. I said nothing except to thank him for his kindness. The drive back seemed very short, as I was lost in thought. I wondered how much longer Nathan would stay if they didn't come after me soon. I dreaded an attack, yet if the delay meant losing Nathan, an attack couldn't come soon enough. The moment I saw my house, I knew my wish had been granted. Someone had been there and they hadn't hidden their visit, either. The front door gaped open like a fresh wound. Nathan dithered for a minute or two. I wondered why he didn't call his colleagues. Maybe they'd given up waiting for something bad to happen to me. Was he the only one left? He confirmed my suspicions by suggesting we call the police instead of his team. While he made the call, I fished through his glove box, desperately hoping for a weapon. A screwdriver, a can of pepper spray. I hit the jackpot with a pocket knife. Feverishly, while Nathan was still distracted, I folded out the blade, resolving to stab anyone in the groin who got too close. Castration sounded like a really good idea. I dropped the knife when Nathan came close. I didn't want him to try and take it off me. His reassuring litany lasted until the police arrived, in a proper patrol car and all. I let Nathan carry me inside once they'd given the all clear. My intruders had already left. I wasn't prepared for the mess they'd left behind though. I curled up in an armchair, afraid to touch anything that might be evidence. It took me a moment for my shocked brain to realize that it didn't matter what I touched, my fingerprints and DNA would be everywhere anyway. Nathan's too. I saw the empty knife block in the kitchen and immediately thought of her. A knife would have been my first choice of weapon too. If she'd come and gone without staying to hurt me more, she must have left something behind, either a message or something that would hurt me in her absence. The most personal place for her to do that would be my bedroom, so that's where I bent my steps. Cruel and unusual were her style, so I was mystified by the mess in my bedroom. It looked like she'd gone through my wardrobe, trying on and discarding items as if she was choosing the perfect outfit for a special occasion. Killing me, I guessed. A flash of blue caught my eye, the dress I'd worn to my high school graduation, hanging askew on the hanger. It was the most expensive dress I'd ever owned. It cost more than my ball gown. I'd hoped one day to wear it again, but she'd shattered that dream with a slash of my scissors. I almost cried. From underwear I'd never worn to dresses I'd hoped to wear again, all had fallen victim to her blade. Much like me, except the clothes hadn't fought back. Nathan murmured soothing words while the police officers took notes. I paid little attention to any of them. More than ever, I wanted this to be over. My fingers tightened around the filleting knife I'd found on my bed, as I crushed lacy lingerie in my other fist. I intended to gut her like a fish. But first, I'd seduce my sleazy roommate and see if the suggestion of sex could persuade him to stay long enough to assist with the slaughter. With his help, I might survive. As if he'd read my thoughts, Nathan offered, "I won't let them hurt you. I'll even take you shopping to buy more clothes to replace these." I left the shredded lace on the bed. Lingerie shopping with Nathan sounded like fun, and perfectly in line with my plan. I headed off to wash any intact clothes that remained, while Nathan dealt with the mess. Over my shoulder, I saw him staring at the shredded G-string I'd balled up on the bed. I smothered a smile and kept going. 50. Her tied Mike Tomcut. What the hell? I said, not her face, we need her to stay pretty. An angry woman's voice broke through the darkness. She attacked me with a knife, Mike muttered. I'll do it again. Cut me free and I'll claw something off with my bare hands. What's your excuse, Tom? She sounded bored. She tried to take her nails to my face. She almost scratched my eye. I didn't hit her hard. She just landed on her face is all. He sounded even more bored than her. Not Chris. Tom. Tom's the prick who first raped me, who broke my fingers, who's also going to die. I listed it all out in my head. If only I could see his face, so I could memorize his features. You've got the rest of her to do what you want with. Just leave her face is all. It'd be nice if you didn't kill her yet too. She paused, taking a deep breath. Who wants her next? My blood ran cold. Please, not more pain. I do, both men said together. I held my breath, hoping they'd decide to fight to the death over me or something equally stupid. Something that kept me safe from both of them, or one at worst. I haven't had her yet, Mike said. I'd like to wake her up and give her a big surprise. So would I. I'd like to give you a bullet in the brain. I don't like sloppy seconds, Tom said with disgust. If I don't have her first, I'm not interested. I wanted to curl into a ball and hide at the memory of what he did to me first. Don't let him touch me again. Sloppy seconds. Hell yeah. Mike laughed. You can go first if you get her wet for me, mate. No please. Fine by me. No. Not fine at all. Fucking horrible. I froze and tried not to let them know I was awake enough to hear them. A hiss of breath. Then it's all arranged to your satisfaction. You both remember what I said and have your fun. Mike, can you make sure the others know? Any more damage to her face and I'll do some damage. They'll believe you. Yes ma'am, Mike said. I wanted to laugh out loud. Hysterical laughter, but laughter nonetheless. Mike the big bastard had a woman boss who he called ma'am and obeyed? Too funny. I hadn't been paying attention. Cold air chilled my bare skin, for the blankets had been ripped away. A cold blade slipped between my legs, freezing me further. The rope dropped from my legs, cut. I know you're awake. You're too stiff to be asleep. Spread your legs for me like a good girl and you might even enjoy it. His voice was quiet and emotionless. And no, don't think you'll get your hands on my knife. Try anything like you did yesterday and I'll cut you instead. He shoved my legs apart and I found my voice, desperate to say something that might delay the pain or stop it altogether. I heard the squeal of a zip, then the crackle of plastic. Why bother? Chris has had me every night. He's more a man than you'll ever be. You're the sloppy seconds, not me, I spat. He grunted and I felt his weight on the mattress. Shut up or I'll break your jaw. But she won't let you do that. The bitch you work for, I taunted. The bitch I work for won't care if I cut you a wider cunt though. So shut the fuck up or I'll do it, he threatened. I gritted my teeth as he grunted. Please let it be over soon. Or I'll go away in my head and not come back. 51. I needed cheese. If I didn't get cheese, the zombie mice would be hungry and they'd cry. But all I could find at shop after shop was cheddar and camembert. They'd only eat Persian feta and I could hear them crying already as I took longer and longer. Mice don't eat cheese. I startled myself awake, trying not to laugh at the sheer stupidity of my dream. There was no such thing as zombie mice and they definitely didn't eat cheese. As I stifled my laughter, I realized Nathan was thrashing around beside me, his breathing fast and panicked. No, no, he murmured, the breathy whisper hard to understand. Nathan had nightmares. I should wake him from this one, as he'd done so many times for me. Nathan, it's just a bad dream like mine. Please? Don't let them. He threw his arms around me, tightening into an inescapable hug. It's okay, Angel. A bad dream. You're safe at home. He choked back a sob. You're okay. Oh God. His nightmares were about me. I made an excuse about needing to write my dreams down and his hold loosened enough for me to leave the bed. He offered to help. No, you don't need to hear this. Not if it gave him nightmares worse than mine. Go back to sleep, Nathan. I won't be long, I lied. I turned the laptop on, feeling his eyes on me the whole time. He didn't go back to sleep for a while and he was restless soon after. Feeling like a sick stalker as I watched him sleep, I waited to see if he'd have another nightmare. No, not her, no. I felt tears streak my cheeks at the agony in his voice. Not Caitlin. I stumbled back to my bed, moving as close to Nathan as I could. You're okay. Just a dream, he murmured, stroking my hair as he pulled me closer to him. I could feel him shaking. I gave him nightmares. I should never have told him. I'm sorry. I'm here now and I'm helping you. No one's going to hurt you again, I swear. Definitely not her. He sounded so fierce, as if he was trying to fight off his own nightmares as well as mine. What could I say to that? Thanks, Nathan, I murmured, wishing I could offer more. Yet a small part of me whispered, "Serves you right, you bastard, taking so long to help me." I tried to silence it, but the niggling thought remained. 52. I saved the lingerie shopping for last. Nathan made appreciative noises when I showed him some of the clothes, but it was the sexier stuff I wanted him to see. I deliberately took him to the lingerie shop, with notoriously bad service. The teenagers at the counter only served their friends and ignored everyone else. In the past, it had annoyed me beyond belief, but today their inattention was perfect. After several unsuccessful attempts to get their attention, Nathan agreed to help me fasten things. No matter how much he averted his eyes, I knew the mirrors would make sure he saw everything. The longing in his eyes as he stared at the red satin padded one made me smother a smile as I set it on the pile of items I wanted. He swallowed as if his mouth was dry for the black lace. I added that to the pile too. He didn't seem to like the patterned ones as much, and one didn't fit very well either. A little bit too much padding perhaps. He shuddered at the black and red one I thought quite pretty, but I set it aside. He seemed to grow more and more agitated as I switched to some plain satin ones, and I opened my mouth to ask why. Of course, that's when the stupid shop assistant decided to try to be helpful. "Can I help you with anything?" she simpered, shoving the curtain open without caring whether I was naked or decent. I quickly slipped a sweet little chemise over my head. "Oh, thank God!" Nathan exclaimed. I could see his hands shaking, but his eyes were on her and not me. I glanced at the bulge in the front of his pants and tried to distract the shop assistant before she noticed too. I handed her the pile of items Nathan had expressed his appreciation over, and asked her to get me matching knickers for the lot. Nathan adjusted himself while her eyes were on me. "You look beautiful in that one," he murmured as soon as she was out of earshot. I tried not to cheer, no matter how much I wanted to, as I asked him to assist me back into my own clothes. Once dressed, I snatched up the chemise that Nathan had admired. I intended to wear it tonight, and see how long he could resist. 53. Her tied Alana, Chris personal. My husband is weak. He wants you, but he hasn't given in to temptation yet. I blinked at the torch she shone into my eyes. I didn't uncurl from my fetal ball. I saw her lift her shoulders in a shrug. He will. You look too much like me. He'll never dominate me, for he's too weak. Perhaps I should watch when he takes you. The torch played over my body. So dirty though. She shuddered. So give me a shower and a change of clothes, I said hoarsely. You won't live long enough to need one, she said softly. It's only a matter of time. He killed the last one. The Azio boy's twin. She fought too hard. Realization hit, I knew who she meant. Found dead on a beach, bloodied and broken. The bloke who found her had talked to the news and he'd looked green. Alana, I blurted out. He killed Alana. She shrugged again. Was that her name? I didn't care to find out. Like her, you won't last long. I just have to last long enough to kill you, I rasped. You won't get a chance. The one you call Chris, he'll kill you first. To save his family, he thinks. She laughed. He can't save his family. She walked to the door. It's not personal. He could have picked anyone. It didn't matter to me. It'll all be over soon. The hell, it isn't personal. It is to me. This is my body they're hurting. It may not be personal to you yet, but I'll sure as hell make it personal when I kill you, bitch. 54. How many? A pause. I'll take care of it. Let them in. My hand hovered over the just-pressed flush button when I heard Nathan's low voice in the hallway. I froze stunned as water swirled around the bowl. Nathan burst in on me, kicking the door shut behind him. I felt his whole body tense as he crushed me against the wall. His hand silenced the shocked scream that wanted to escape from my mouth. I swallowed it down. Fear had no place in my head when it was swiftly replaced with fury. "You bastard! Tell me you didn't just..." He was breathing heavily, desperation in his expression. I gazed steadily back into his panicked eyes, trying to decide what my next action should be. Nathan carefully took his hand away from my mouth, his look apologetic. "Oh no you don't. The hell you're handing me over to them." I forced myself to relax in his grip, dropping my head and closing my eyes, from fierce to pitiful in a moment. I took a calculated risk, distracting him in the most underhanded way possible. "Nathan, please don't hurt me," I begged him as desperately as I could manage. He was still for a moment, trying to shut out the memory I knew my words would inspire. His weight against me lessened and he made an effort to control his rapid breathing. "I'm not going to hurt you." His tone was calm and low, so reassuring he disarmed me completely. "You've said that before," I thought uneasily. "You've never hurt me." "But they..." The gentle kiss as his lips met mine shocked me. Nathan would never hurt me. Just like he wasn't hurting me now. The memory came unbidden, forced kisses in the dark. One rough and unpleasant, one gentle and insistent. My lips parted and I responded. "Chris." I forced my eyes open as I spoke the name, not wanting to be in the dark with memories I didn't trust. "Remember?" "You bastard. How dare you? Never without my permission." I glared at him, trying to decide what to say first, as I shoved his shoulders away with both hands. He moved back so only his hands touched me, still pinning me to the wall. "I'm sorry," he started to say. "I should have done this a long time ago." I was too close to kick him, and in bare feet I'd only hurt my toes, but I could and did drive my knee up to where I could still cause considerable pain. He gasped as my knee connected, leaning over to move his most sensitive parts away from me, while putting more weight on pinning me to the wall. His forehead nearly rested on my shoulder. "You prick. You did that before and you hoped I wouldn't remember." I tried to scare him into letting him go, but still he held me firmly. I pushed against him and tried to twist away, to no avail. His voice was wheezy and breathless, but still audible. "I need you to stay in here. The house is being watched and I need you to hide in here, where no one will guess you are." His weight on my shoulders intensified and my knees folded. He was ready for it, pushing me into the tight space between the toilet and the wall, as I sank to the floor. "Hurt me and I'll kill you." I glared up at him. But instead of approaching me, he turned to go. He's serious, I realized. I found my voice. "You can't leave me here alone, give me something to defend myself with, or stay here with me." It was painful for me to admit, but that was the reason I hadn't kneed him where it hurt before now. He knelt down on the floor in front of me. I must have hurt him, I realized. He had tears in his eyes. "Good." His voice was low and painful. "I can't. They've seen me come in here, and if I stay, this is the first place they'll check, because they know I'll be here. Then they'll find you too." Shit. Shouldn't have hurt him. Not yet. I still needed him. Hell, if he got me through this alive, maybe I could even forgive him. I looked up at him. "You really want my forgiveness? Fine. Make sure you kill them all." He winked and nodded. Through the rapidly narrowing gap as he shut the door, I could see him adjusting himself, wincing. Maybe I'll apologize for that, I thought. When it's all over. Maybe. 55. I watched the light from the frosted toilet window fade from orange to pink to darkness. Jammed between tiled wall and toilet bowl in the dark, one heard sounds that might have been gunshots, but they were muffled, sounding far away. My heart raced with fear and a sort of thrill that I'd felt before, but I'd forgotten. I realized that I wanted Nathan to be there with me. I didn't want to cringe in a corner like a frightened rabbit. All someone had to do was open the door and I was a sitting duck. They couldn't miss me. Nathan should have given me a weapon, not left me here alone, near helpless, confident I was so well hidden that they'd never find me. Fucking bastards. Leaving me in no state to fight. Hell, I wanted to fight, but I feared I hadn't recovered enough to be any use. I'd distract Nathan from them if he had to focus on my fragility. He still should have left me a fucking weapon, one I didn't need much strength for. A small automatic pistol perhaps, or was he just afraid I'd hold it to his head if he tried to kiss me again? I remembered the burn of his lips on mine. The unexpected, urgent kiss. When he knew what they'd done to me. The dark memory hovered in the back of my mind, the one that had yawned open like a chasm when I'd closed my eyes earlier, but I pushed it away. I didn't want to give in to it. It had come back in my nightmares soon enough. I pushed that thought away too. Burning fury is better for a fight than fear for the future. Never hurt me again, I thought fiercely. If Nathan gave me a gun, I probably wouldn't shoot him. I felt like kicking him instead, far more satisfying. I flexed my foot, wondering at one of the few parts of my body without scars. My feet and my face. My face, I knew why. My feet, perhaps none of them had a foot fetish. They were definitely fucked up in their preferences otherwise, maybe feet were just too tame. I heard a faint sound and looked up. The door started to open, the handle turned and the door moved inward. I scanned the room, looking for anything I could use as a weapon. The toilet brush or the bottle of toilet cleaner? Laughter threatened to erupt, but I held it in. She didn't seem to see me until the door was fully open, but by then she blocked the doorway. She was armed. Hello. She was short like me with dark hair, dark eyes and a petite build. Very like me, but older. A face I hadn't forgotten. Come on, get up. I'm taking you away from here. She was dressed in a dark vest and shirt with dark pants, far more practical than the new nightdress I wore. I should have been wearing something like that. I just stared at her for a moment. I needed to get up and get close to her, or I'd never stand a chance. I might even have to kill her. Oh God, how? I'd never killed anyone before. At least I had a tiny bit of time to find my courage and decide to do it, desperately hoping Nathan would come back in time to save me. Despite the impressive weapon, I knew she wasn't going to shoot me yet. If she was, she'd have had me at hello. I can't get up by myself. I need help, I blurted out. Where's Al-Hamar when I need him? He liked being your nursemaid more than he liked fucking you. She snorted. Realization dawned. You mean Nathan? You're calling Nathan Al-Hamar? I forced myself to laugh. The man you call an ass shot your husband stone dead. For me. And he'll happily do the same to you. Bullshit. Her eyes flickered as if she didn't know what to believe. She shook her head. He'll do what I tell him, as always. I might have him eat me out again on the leather back seat of his lovely car, while your corpse is cooling in the boot. Again? Nathan slept with this bitch? How? She saw my confusion and smiled. He may be a donkey, but his performance was quite impressive. Of course you wouldn't know, he never tried to please you like he did me. He was trying to seduce me for information, so I really got him at his best. No. Nathan wouldn't sleep with her for information. He wouldn't. Surely. She's full of shit, trying to shake me. He swore he'd protect me. He promised he wouldn't let her. Come on. She leaned closer to me and held out a hand, the one without the gun. Not a little weapon like the one on the beach, something newer and bigger, the type you see on American action movies that spit out bullets far faster. She waved the gun toward the door and the hallway outside, telling me to go that way. I'm going to die. She's going to shoot me with that overpowered weapon while I have, shit. Damned if I'd go out cringing in a corner though. I took her arm and stood up. We stood eye to eye for a second, though I was unsteady. She smiled. The boys have missed you. And your pet donkey, the Azio-ass boy you think will save you? He'll kill you for me to protect his family, even without orders from his boss. Who is quite an obedient bitch himself, as I recall. He's pulling the rest of his team out as I speak, so there won't be anyone to help you. Just the inconstant donkey. Maybe I'll let him fuck me one last time before I kill him too. Doubt hit for the second time, harder than before. If his boss was implicated in this too, I didn't know what Nathan would do. What if she was right, and he'd choose her and his sister over me? Maybe he'd wanted the bitch all along. The bitch who'd hit me and pushed me into the car. The bitch who'd slashed my clothes and was back to do the same to me. I couldn't count on any help from Nathan or anyone else. Fuck you, Nathan, if you want her. I'd rather die than go back. What did I have to lose? If I'm going to hell, I'll take you with me, bitch. You're going to pay for what you did to me. I lifted my arm and the toilet brush with it, to her face. She recoiled from the brown bristles, coated and dripping with blue toilet cleaner. Her mouth opened wide with horror. I smiled and shoved the foul thing down her throat. As she choked, I grabbed for the gun and I didn't let go. She could have squeezed the trigger in surprise. But she didn't. Both of her hands were clamped around the handle of the toilet brush, trying to drag it out so she could breathe. I knew the cleaner would already be burning her insides. The bitch deserved it. I yanked the gun from her hands, shoving her against the wall tiles. I'm not sure she even saw it coming. I squeezed off one round into her face and I didn't stop until I'd run out. I had no bullets left and the bitch was missing a face. The shots echoed in my head, so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Her blood was everywhere, coating the tiled walls and the floor. The acrid smoke burned my throat and made it hard to breathe. I felt her body go limp and fall. Good. I pulled the blood-spattered satin chemise off, trying to wipe some of her blood off my face as I did so, and dropped it on the floor. Carefully, I edged her shirt and vest over what was left of her head and put them on. The vest seemed to be some kind of armor, its pockets loaded with extra ammunition. This be handy. I took her pants and put them on. Strapped to her ankle was a big, wicked-looking knife. I hesitated before taking that too. She wouldn't need it. Her shoes looked too big for me, so I left them. I dressed her in my ruined nightie, then pushed her over so she lay face down on the floor. Maybe they'd think she was me and buy me some time. I picked up her gun, wiping some of the blood off it with the skirt of the nightie. Then I tried to heave open the door, but her feet were jammed up against it. I managed to push it open wide enough to squeeze out into the hallway, but the weight of her legs shut the door as soon as I was through. Oh well, it'd take them longer to find her and realize it's not me, I thought. I looked around for somewhere to hide, ideally where I could make use of the gun. The laundry and bathroom were the nearest rooms, but they had no obvious hiding places. I wished I had the flexibility and strength to brace myself in the corner of a ceiling, like people did in movies, as I looked up at the high ceilings. Maybe if I could climb onto the dryer, I'd be out of sight, and I'd have a clear shot at anyone trying to get me down. I just had to get up there. For the first time, I blessed Joe's addiction to the shooting range. I'd handled a fair few pistols and I wasn't a bad shot. I hoped I wasn't too out of practice. I stuck the gun and the knife up on the dryer, so I wouldn't have any accidents with either of them. Then I took a deep breath and started to haul myself up. By the time I'd climbed from the top of the washing machine to the top of the dryer, I figured everything hurt, and I might have injured some muscles I didn't know I had. I hope I get to rest up here a while before I need to climb down, I thought, as I shoved a clip of bullets from my vest pocket into the gun. I fully intended to shoot first and say fuck you later. 56. Tide help pills Chris. Perhaps I was so exhausted I fell asleep. Perhaps one of them knocked me unconscious. I went away to places in my head that were as far from the cold concrete as I could, so I don't remember. All I remember is every one of them making a point of telling me his name was Chris, with not a single voice matching the one they called Chris. When I woke up, it was to something cold and wet touching my cheek, which now felt horribly bruised. The rest of my body felt worse, violated in every way. I'd force him to kill me before I let him rape me again. What in hell are you doing this time? I said tersely. Shush, came Chris's whispered reply. They won't let me near you unless they want me to, so keep it down please so they don't hear us. I'm here to help you. Find me a good pair of rusty garden shears and untie me. I snapped back. Help me and I'll let you keep all your bits intact. I'm going to fucking castrate the rest of them, so they'll never. I can't untie you. They'd know I helped you. I brought you some food and drink, and something for the pain. Did they hurt you when they tied you up? Of course they fucking hurt me, stupid. My face hurt too much to eat or even talk. I didn't want to think about the rest of me. I didn't say anything else. He gave me some pills, holding the water to my lips as I drank. A nice pair of garden shears and they'd know I was there, and they wouldn't be doing it again either. Did they hurt you? Asked the pathetic Chris's voice again. That's an understatement, I thought, as I nodded in the dark. Keep fighting. Don't let them win. And he was gone. 57. Nathan went past the door. Another man paused to point a gun into the laundry, before he kept going. Silently, he followed Nathan. I slid down from the dryer to the floor as quietly as I could. I clicked the safety off my gun, knowing what I had to do. Nathan had already reached the toilet, with the mystery man still a few steps behind him. I grabbed the guy's shoulder, sticking the gun into his neck. I hissed at him to drop his weapon. He leaned down to place it on the hall rug and I kicked it, sending it spinning across the laundry floor. He even stuck his hands in the air. I couldn't see over his shoulder or his raised hands, I was too short. Tell him he's been followed, I hissed. You missed one, the man squeaked out. He jerked his head a little behind him. I couldn't see Nathan. Was he angry at me for killing her? You killed her, Nathan accused. Oh shit. I couldn't deny it. Yes. It came out as a whisper, my voice had failed. The man I held at gunpoint nodded for Nathan's benefit. I'd killed her. I'd been so scared of them taking me back that I'd killed to stop her. What else had he expected me to do? So lost in thought, when I should have been thinking about the present. Nathan hit the other man like a truck, barreling us both into the wall, with me cushioning the big man's fall. Desperately, I tried to shoot him so he wouldn't touch me again. Get off me. The gun jammed. The stupid bitch probably hadn't even loaded the bullets into the clip properly. I wanted to kill her all over again. The big one kept me pinned to the wall as Nathan did his utmost to get me free of him. Large hands grabbed my frail fingers, trying to pry the gun out of them. Out of spite, I threw it down on the floor, hoping to dislodge the clip so I could reload it properly. Then I could shoot him. Nathan somehow got the big bloke's attention, and his weight on me lessened enough for me to slide away from him to the floor. I dived for my weapon but it skidded out of my reach. I didn't have even a moment to breathe before a crushing weight knocked the breath out of me. The big bastard covered my body with his, and I didn't even have the air to scream. "I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. Nathan, get him off me." The touch of cold restraints around my wrists froze me entirely. The scars had barely healed from the last set. "I'll die first. And I'll fucking take you with me." I tried desperately to throw him off to escape from his grasp, but I heard metal snap closed and almost cried. "Nathan, please help me." Nothing. Not a sound from Nathan. In my ear, the big bastard's quiet words sounded perfectly calm. He told me there was nothing I could do, that he was taking me with him and he was going to knock me out. I had only one reply. The same as the first time. "Fuck you." His grip on me loosened and I used the little freedom I had to look for Nathan. "Nathan. Please help me. Nathan." I saw his face, but he stood back, panicking as if he was scared to step forward and help me. Why did he hesitate? What did I miss? What did the big bastard threaten me with that had Nathan so scared to help me? If I'd thought his eyes were desperate before, they were nothing to what his expression held now. Insanity, desperation, anguish, despair, horror, grief, I could take my pick, they were all there. Yet he still stumbled toward me. I felt the cold prick at my neck. Oh fuck. What was he injecting me with? As if Nathan's single step was his cue, I felt the liquid forced beneath my skin. No. I closed my eyes. 58. Darkness swirled, but Nathan's voice pierced it as if sound were light. "You're not taking her anywhere." I tried to move, but everything felt too heavy. It was like being unconscious in hospital again. Why give me pain drugs when last time they used chloroform? And why such a tiny dose when a heavier one could knock me out for hours? I felt arms lift me, desperately wishing I could fight to free myself. I must have made some movement, because I heard Nathan's voice apologize for hurting me. So close a whisper, the arms holding me were his. In relief, I relaxed. "Naveed." The way he said it, the strange word sounded like he was calling a name. The deep voice responding confirmed it. "She killed the girl we were trying to protect." He was a guard. One of Nathan's colleagues. And he thought I was her. Relief cycled to triumph as I realized switching clothes with her had worked, only I'd fooled the wrong person. I wanted to laugh, but my body didn't respond. "Caitlin killed the bitch." Nathan said the words so calmly, as if he knew I'd do it all along. I hadn't known if I'd managed to survive, let alone kill someone. Even if she did deserve it. I killed the bitch. The relief and joy of it knew no bounds. She'd never hurt me again. That was Laura. I heard the venom in Nathan's tone. The bitch's name was Laura, and Nathan didn't like her at all. But she'd always be the bitch to me. "It's over. Nick, Pete, Tom, they're all dead. Make this all go away before she wakes up." Blissfully, I listened as I floated in the dark. In Nathan's arms. And in safety. I drifted as both voices murmured. I heard the unfamiliar deep voice, realize Nathan was right. "It's over." Nathan's reply washed over me, until he raised his voice a little to stress the words. "Please. I can't stand to lose her again." I wanted to smile. What more evidence did I need to know that Nathan cared deeply for me? He'd killed for me. He'd admitted it to one of the blokes he worked with. I felt the gentle bump of Nathan's footsteps as he carried me away. 59. Brick fingers, broken nose, Pete. What was in those pills? They left me so drowsy I couldn't stay awake. Groggily, I tried to work out what had woken me. I like the color. Like your gift wrapped just for me. I heard the sound of sawing and felt the rope constrict around my legs. The sawing stopped and his voice sounded closer. Pity your tits aren't bigger though. I pulled my knees up, my muscles screaming as the rope constricted, and kicked out with both feet together. I heard a satisfying grunt and a thump. Fuck. You broke my nose, you bitch. The blade bit into my calf instead of the rope, and I screamed. That's better. Try that again and I'll break the rest of your face too, I panted, praying he wouldn't cut me again. The other bloke said you like it rough. Fine by me, but I'm not into pain. Mine, that is. So we'll do things differently. He grabbed my feet and dragged me off the mattress onto the cold concrete. He shoved a foot under my back and kicked me over, mashing my face into the concrete. I tried to kick him, but it was harder lying on my tummy. Better, he said. He seized my hair and pulled my head back. Scream for me again. My scalp screamed in pain, yet I swallowed mine. Go fuck yourself. By my hip I could feel the rough edge of a brick. I tried to move my hands to the side so I could grab it. Maybe if I rubbed the rope around my wrists against it, I could free myself. You want the brick? Fuck. He saw what I saw doing. I felt the brick move as he lifted it out of my reach. Okay. He smashed it down on my hand, shattering my fingers. I screamed until I ran out of breath. Well, that's foreplay out the way. Time for the best part. I heard the scream of his zip and the crackle of plastic. With my legs still tied together and me lying face down on the concrete, I wondered what the hell he intended to do. I hoped he'd decide to wank instead of running the risk of getting closer to me again. My fingers hurt too much to cross them. It's better this way. He shoved me down as he stretched himself out on top of me. He gave my backside a stinging slap. Such a sweet little ass. I bet it's tight too. Oh fuck yeah. You like it rough, right? I screamed again. 60. Cool air chilled my bare legs. A hand touched my chest between my breasts. I curled up to protect myself, bringing my knees up so I could kick the bastard so hard he sang soprano. Nathan, if you sold me out to them, I will hunt you down and kill you in the most painful way I can devise. I relaxed a little when I heard Nathan's voice. I listened to the litany of reassurance that didn't tell me why he'd taken my pants. You're covered in blood, Angel. Laura's blood, I wanted to say. As soon as I could move properly again, I'd wash it off with disinfectant, and then maybe I'd feel clean again for the first time since she touched me. Just me, Angel. I'm not going to hurt you. So he didn't sell me out. I breathed again. His hands touched my chest again and I heard the purr of the vest zip. I was too tired to resist as his hands examined me carefully, like a doctor would. His voice shook and squeaked a little, but the words kept coming. He intended to take my clothes off to wash the blood from my body. I wanted to nod my acquiescence, but my head felt too heavy. Cold air touched my chest as he peeled the shirt from my skin, the blood making it stick to me. After Nathan's horror earlier, I didn't want to see his expression now. He'd never see my body as anything but damaged, he could only see the scars and what they once were. I could control my eyelids again, but I felt no desire to lift them. Not even when the hiss of warm spray hit my skin from my shins to my face. Maybe the medication had made me more pliant too, I mused, letting my body flop like a doll as Nathan enveloped me in towels. Lifting, carrying and laying me down, encased in flannel, as I felt a towel smoothed over my body like a hospital sheet. The shower spray hissed again. Nathan's turn? I tested my body, trying to work out if I could control it yet or not. I moved my toes under the towel, trying not to wince as I flexed my aching thighs. Do not climb on dryers. I arched my back a little, shrugging my shoulders simply because I could. I played air with my fingers. Necessary evil, the evil and the good. I felt the smile lift my lips. After all, wasn't killing people supposed to be evil? Yet I felt so good now she was gone, as if the world was a better place. Necessary evil, indeed. Distantly I heard the shower stop and Nathan's footsteps approached. The slap of wet feet on tiles ceased as water splattered beside me, some of it soaking through my towel. Nathan swore and stepped away. Curious, I carefully opened my eyes. I watched Nathan struggle out of his soaked clothes until I could see the pale skin of his bare backside. Not a bad backside either. He wrapped my pink towel around his waist, his arm muscles bulging a little with the death grip he held the towel together with. Was he afraid his bits would fall off if the towel did? He turned around and my smothered laugh died in my throat. The fearful, worried look at me said more than words. No. He didn't want the sight of so much skin to scare me. It's not the sight. It's the feeling of it in close proximity to mine, I wanted to explain. But to do that, I'd have to tell him everything and why. Burden him with graphic descriptions of rape. I closed my eyes. No, Nathan, I can't do that to you. The shock of his skin on mine almost broke my resolve. I sucked in a breath to scream. His soothing voice cut me short. That and the slide of satin over my skin as he clothed me once more. Soothed, dressed and dry, I sank into Nathan's arms, secure and safe. Because the bitch was dead. Nathan set me down on a soft mattress. Mine. Cool cotton covered me, slowly starting to warm me. Quilt. I heard a voice say they were all dead. I started to relax, relieved, before I realized the voice wasn't Nathan's. The voice called me beautiful, then said something about stealing souls. Cold fingers touched my face. No. No. Nathan. Nathan, you promised. His arms were around me and the quilt, cocooning me tightly. I'm here, I heard his voice murmur. I'm here. A pause. No one's going to hurt you, ever again. They're all dead. It's over. Oh, thank God, it's over. I could feel my mind floating. Nathan's voice said something else, but I couldn't focus on it. I drifted off to sleep. Safe. 61. It was dark when I woke up. Nathan was beside me, I'd just woken him up. In my dream it had happened again. She'd come and tried to take me back, I'd shot her and her blood had splashed. I tried to take stock of what was real here now. I was wearing little more than my underwear, shorty satin PJs. Nothing else. Not someone else's clothes. My hands were clean. There was no blood on them. It couldn't have been just a dream. But Nathan didn't have a gun, I didn't have a gun. I couldn't have murdered anyone. Oh, but I did. I killed the bitch who hurt me, whose husband. Hey, are you all right? Nathan's sleepy voice in my ear. You were lying there on the toilet floor when I got there. You passed out. You've been out of it for hours. That couldn't be right. I remembered. Memory mixed with dream. Did I shoot her or was it an accident? It's not murder when it's self-defense. No accident. I dreamed that they were trying to take me back and I killed someone. You had a gun and they all had guns. I tried to make it sound like any of it made sense but failed. Just a bad dream. It's all over now. His lips on mine. I gasped in surprise. I felt him freeze. He hadn't planned this. His breathing was ragged, but I kept mine as even as I could, holding still. It's your move, Nathan. Very carefully, he slid his fingers along my pillow, between my cheek and the cotton cover. He kissed my lips as if he was kissing his sister's cheek, a kiss so chaste it was hard to believe I was sharing a bed with a man who'd seen me naked. Then he pulled away from me slightly, his breathing fast and nervous. Why so slow and hesitant? What happened to Mr. Sleazy roommate in the toilet tonight? Unless he hadn't planned that either. A faint idea coalesced in my head, and I did what my body had wanted to do in the toilet earlier this evening, before I pushed him away so I didn't. I wrapped my arms around him and kissed him properly. He was too shocked to kiss me back for a second or two, he even forgot to breathe. When he did respond, his every movement was careful and tender, as if he was savoring each moment. I could do this. I could let him touch me. I could respond. I even wanted to. After the pain, confusion and killing tonight, I wanted this. I wanted whatever pleasure this man could give me. If only to feel wanted again. He had no shirt on. My hand smoothed his skin. He kissed me as urgently as I kissed him. Let me help take your mind off it. He was so gentle. Was he this gentle with her? Ugh, could he really have slept with her? I don't care how gentle you are now, you bastard. You touched me without my permission and then nearly got me killed. The hell you're touching me now, and definitely not if you slept with her. How could you fuck that bitch? Knowing what she did? No. I hissed through gritted teeth and shoved him away. 62. 4 Mike Tom Simon Pete her. I lost track of the days, the difference between day and night, and any sense of time. Some minutes stretched for hours when I just wanted it to be over, but it felt like I'd only just gone to sleep when someone else would hurt me and wake me up to start all over again. I was always tired. Maybe the pain or the horror of it made me so sleepy. Sometimes I was even too tired to fight, too tired to spit the insults at them that I was thinking. Maybe they hurt me less because they didn't get much of a reaction to whatever they did to me. Maybe they hurt me more to get a reaction. There were 4 of them who hurt me, all different. One of them was there more often, a big bully who'd crush me under his weight. He was rough and strong and he probably left bruises wherever he touched me. He'd hit me or hurt me some other way with his big, meaty hands until I'd at least whimper, before he'd start grunting his way to a climax. He was the one the others called Mike. The bastard who drugged me in the car. Another one liked to break my fingers, or twist the ones he'd already broken. He liked to pinch and slap too. He was a small skinny bloke with a nasal whiny voice. Torture with him couldn't have lasted more than 5 minutes. I heard Mike say to him once, "Come on Pete, your 5 minutes are almost done," and thankfully Pete had been done too. One of them always brought one of the others along to hold me still. He took forever and his hands were everywhere. It was like being groped by 2 squids. He'd make comments to himself or the guy holding me for him. I know I fell asleep more than once and I doubt he noticed. If Mike was holding me, he'd hit me till I woke up and he'd laugh that he and the other guys had exhausted me before it was Simon's turn. The cold fish was called Simon. Simon's preferred accomplice he called Tom. Tom didn't say much, he just did what he came for and left. I asked him once why he bothered with me at all. He told me to shut up or he'd break my jaw. Don't remember if he came back after that. Then there was her. The woman who wanted me to speak to her friend. The woman who drove the red Mercedes. She hit me and pushed me in and she knew what they'd do to me. I'll kill her if I can. I want them all dead. I want to know they can never hurt me or anyone else again. It'd be satisfying if I can make sure they feel the same pain as what they'd forced on me before they die, but I'll settle for them dead. Maybe. 63. I didn't regret it properly till Nathan had hurried out of my room, and I heard the water running in the bathroom. I slipped out of bed and opened my bedroom door silently. I wanted to apologize. I was so messed up after getting into not one but two fights tonight, that I'd started a third with Nathan. I didn't want him to leave me alone, not tonight. Outside the door I came face to face with a man I didn't know. Oh, but I did. Even as his eyes slid away from my face, I realized this was the man who'd tried to crush the life out of me before he stabbed me with a syringe. The man who knew Nathan. "Are you here to guard me?" I whispered. He nodded. I looked into his eyes, keeping my voice low so Nathan wouldn't hear me. "I'm sorry I held a gun to your head. I thought you were going to kill him." He smiled, nodded and told me it was okay. Haltingly he said, "I'm sorry for stuff too." I heard Nathan splashing in the bathroom and hurried through the house to the toilet. When I opened the door, I half expected to see the blood-spattered walls in my memory, but the gore was gone. The tiles sparkled like they hadn't for months, and I know I hadn't cleaned them. I shut the door again as quietly as I could, and headed into the laundry to retrieve my knife. I scrabbled around on top of the dryer until I found it, wedged between the dryer and the wall. I tucked the sheathed blade into the waistband of my pajamas, pulling my top down to hide it. It was cold against my skin, much like my resolve. I tiptoed quickly back to my room, listening for the running water in the bathroom. It sounded like Nathan was still there. The guard hadn't moved. He gave me a nod as I approached. "Nathan's guarding me too, right?" I asked. He nodded. I hesitated, but I had to ask. "Is he any good? Can I trust him?" He paused, looking thoughtful. "Well, he's kept you alive this long. Through blind dumb luck and help from everyone including me." He looked like he was thinking the same thing. He opened his mouth to speak. Why did he take so long to come back for me? I couldn't stop my voice from shaking. He swallowed. He disobeyed orders and killed suspects he was supposed to capture. My orders were to get him to the surveillance van. I didn't know he'd missed one. Orders? You mean Nathan's not in charge? I asked quickly. No, the unit manager up at the state office, he began. That was the man I needed to meet. The man who was ordering him around. The one who told him to let me get hurt. If all of Nathan's fuck-ups weren't his fault, well, most of them at least, someone else needed to pay. And the price would be high. I'd make sure of that. I gritted my teeth so hard they grated together. Tell him I need to talk to him. Without Nathan. I took a deep breath. I'll tell him everything I know. He looked at me in consternation. I heard Nathan turn the water off and his footsteps cross from tiled bathroom floor to hallway carpet. Thank you, I whispered as I hurried back to bed. I slipped the knife beneath my pillow while he exchanged words with the guard outside, their voices too low for me to hear. I lay down and focused on my breathing, allowing my body to relax again. Whether I trusted Nathan or not, at least I wouldn't be unarmed anymore. I intended to take this knife everywhere. Especially if I lost Nathan's help. As he crept into bed beside me once more, I relaxed in relief. I needed him still, and the only way I could think to bind him more closely to me involved sex. I only hoped I could do it. 64. The plan was so stupid, it was hard to believe it had been mine. Of course, it wasn't until I was in the middle of the crowded nightclub that I realized what a terrible idea it was. I couldn't seduce Nathan in this crush, he couldn't hear a word I said. I needed privacy. And a truckload more courage than I could ever possess. It took him 10 minutes of waiting before he could buy me a drink from the bar, hardly enough liquid courage to bolster my bravery. So when Nathan asked me if I wanted to go home, I was so happy, I kissed him. I'd finished 2 of my stubbies by the time Nathan pulled into an unfamiliar driveway. My head was swimmy with the alcohol. Nathan swirled it round further by lifting me from the car and spinning me around. The empty bottle in my hand slipped from my fumbling fingers and thumped to the grass. A glowing heat spread through my chest, fueled by the alcohol and more besides. I returned Nathan's fierce kiss, holding his head in my hands. I wanted this. Fuck, I wanted this. He'd never hurt me. Never. Something bumped against my leg. I looked down and saw Nathan had hooked his fingers round the handle of the bag from the liquor store. It was coming in with us. If my courage needed any more fodder, he had it. Dutch courage. I giggled. Not my vodka mixes. Russian courage more like. Nathan smiled at me, setting me gently on my feet so he could unlock the door. We both lurched through the front door, laughing as our bodies were squeezed together in a doorway that wasn't meant for 2 at a time. He dropped the keys as he kicked the door shut, then knelt to retrieve them. I stuck my toes on top of his keys, out of some fuzzy concept of mischief. His hands on my leg, sliding up and lifting, threw me off balance, so I almost fell on top of him. Instead of righting me, he tried to rise to his feet, with me balanced precariously over one shoulder. He shifted my weight so he had me in more of a fireman's hold over his shoulder, better balanced but hardly dignified. His firm hand on my bare backside steadied me, but it shocked us both. Somehow my skirt had ridden up and my underwear was in clear view. "You got a red G-string to match the red bra?" he gasped. Actually, I'd been pretty pissed to discover the idiot of a shop girl had given me a G-string instead of knickers, but it had been the perfect choice for tonight. Nathan's lips on me drove all thought of anyone else right out of my head. "Kiss ass," I murmured, my skin tingling as he did it again. I watched the keys get further away, forgotten on the tiles. Nathan inverted me and I felt furry fabric beneath my bottom. I looked around fuzzily at the lounge room I didn't recognize. I was sitting on his sofa and he stood near me, holding out a bottle. "Would you like another drink?" He took a deep draught of his own, downing most of the contents before he wiped his mouth and dropped the bottle on a side table. I watched his throat move as he swallowed. I wanted another drink, but I wanted him first. I struggled to my feet and stuck my arms around his neck, trying to kiss him again. He lifted his head out of my reach. "You're drunk, Angel. I don't want to take advantage of you." "Not drunk, well, not quite," I managed to say with a giggle. "Very tipsy. I think I want to go to bed." "Sure, Angel. Let me help you." He supported me as we walked together through his lounge room and into the passage to the bedrooms. It wasn't wide enough for both of us together, so he moved behind me, tugging my waist-high skirt down to cover me as he did so. Annoyed, I yanked my stretchy dress up and up over my bra and my head, so I stood in my underwear with my dress dangling from my hand. I turned to face Nathan, whose eyes were huge as they stared down at the red bra between us. "Oh God," he murmured. I looked at him in consternation. Was he disgusted by what he saw? Would no one ever look at me like I was attractive again? Last night he'd said, "God, you're beautiful, Caitlin. You have no idea how hard it's been resisting you." The look in his eyes was one of longing. Is this what it's like, to be truly loved by someone? I wondered. This isn't just lust. I've seen plenty of that, more than I ever care to. And me? I want Nathan. We kissed, long and lingering, until he lifted me in his arms and we began again. I felt the jolt of his footsteps as he carried me through a doorway, from the darkness in the passage to clumsily clicked-on light. The bed Nathan tenderly placed me on looked black, but as I looked around me I realized that it was a printed quilt cover, the black only a background illuminated by the millions of stars in the Milky Way. "Take me to the stars, Nathan." Before he could straighten up, I pulled him down to the bed with me. He wasn't clumsy, instead, he was careful to land beside me. He leaned over to kiss me again, one hand lightly stroking my neck. I moved by instinct, for I knew if I thought about this I'd back down, and I didn't want to. I had to know. I rolled, pushing him with me, so instead of lying side by side in the stars, I sat astride him. Stars beneath my knees and his bulging pants between my thighs. I caught his surprised eyes and reached back to unclip my bra, sliding it off to throw it to the floor. "Angel," he said in wonder. With agonizing slowness, he sat up so his breath was a warm breeze across my skin. "You know I'll never hurt you, right?" I touched trembling hands to the back of his head and gave the slightest push. "I know," I breathed as his lips touched my breast. I needed to feel his skin against mine, not fabric. I pulled at his shirt, and together we hoisted it over his head. His bare chest was as hard with muscle as mine was soft, but it was clear in his kisses that this didn't bother him in the slightest. I undid his belt and slid that off too. All that was between us were his pants and my G-string. Nathan sat up straight, his eyes level with mine. "I don't want to take advantage of you," he whispered. "Last night you said any time all I needed to do was ask. I'm asking now, Nathan." I could feel the drunken buzz fading, leaving me cold and naked in its wake. Somewhere inside, I felt terror that he was going to reject me. The longer he took, the greater was my desire to curl up in a little ball and give up. "Please?" It came out as a whisper. With his lingering kiss came relief. "For you, Angel, anything. I'll even keep my pants on. Tonight's for you. I can wait." My brain was still fuzzy and I couldn't work out what he meant. I didn't resist as he lifted me to lay my head on a pillow. His hand stroked the tiny strip of satin I still wore. "Are you sure?" I laid my hands on his, pushing his fingers into a hook between the stringy satin and the bony skin at my hips. Together we pulled my knickers over my knees down past my toes. I threw them on the floor. "Yes," I breathed. I'd never been so scared. 65. Tide Chris Cornflakes Coke Superman Death. "Here, I brought you something to eat," Chris's voice hissed quietly. "Can you sit up?" Groggily, I struggled and groaned a little, to no avail. Plastic clattered on the concrete floor before his hand slid behind my back, supporting me as I tried to sit. A flash of pain. I gritted my teeth. I wouldn't let on how much it hurt. Even in the dark, he noticed something wasn't right, but he didn't mention it. He draped a blanket over my shoulders as he moved to sit partly behind me, so that his body supported my back. My instincts threatened to shrink away from even this benign body contact, but exhaustion got the better of me. My body sagged against him, with just a blanket between us. All the while I told myself, "He won't hurt you. You don't need to fight right now, just rest." Begging for it to be true. The clack of cutlery on plastic, as some kind of cereal rustled. I registered that part of my pain was hunger, and accepted a spoonful of whatever he offered. Stale dry cornflakes. Like biting into the plastic packaging. I wanted to spit them out, but my mouth was too dry and I was too hungry. Tears dripped silently as I struggled to chew. He voiced an apology. I looked, but that's all there is. There's no milk and they've run out of juice. All I found was Coke here. The click and hiss of a can being opened, followed by the sound of many bubbles, that meant it was warm. He pressed the can to my lips. Coke warmer than the temperature in the room ran down my chin and onto my legs, which the blanket didn't cover. Bubbles burned into the cuts and bruises. It was too much. I started to sob, and once I started, I couldn't stop. His arms crept around me in a cautious hug. He was careful to enclose the blanket in his embrace. Unlike the others, he didn't touch my skin at all. "It'll be okay," he whispered, sounding uncertain. "No, it won't," I said between sobs. You have to keep fighting. You can't let them win, he insisted. The tears flowed faster. I can't anymore. Please. Kill me now. Do it quickly so they can't hurt me again. I'm begging you. Don't let them. Don't let them. You have to hang on. I'll find a way to get you out of here. Both of us. Your family. I started to say, not sure how to finish. I'll go to prison to protect them. But I can't kill you. I'll find some other way to protect them. I'll save you. Him and his Superman complex. He couldn't save me. He couldn't even save himself or his family. I almost laughed. If you get me out of here alive, I swear I'll tell everyone from the police right up to the judge that you were a saint and my fellow captive, including how you saved my life. What happened to telling them how horrible I am? He sounded rueful. Tell them whatever you like, as long as you hang in there, Angel. I won't let them hurt you. A bit bloody late. What about how much I hurt already? Can you take that away too? You need your strength. Please eat some more. He sounded apologetic as his arms loosened. I heard him scrape another spoonful and opened my mouth dutifully. Eat. Drink. Let him help you rest and take some of the pain away. Let him help you keep your strength long enough to live and get out of here. If I stopped eating, would this be over sooner? No more pain? I pushed the traitorous thought away, forcing myself to crunch through the cornflakes and swallow. When I get out of here, I'm never going to eat cornflakes again, stale or otherwise, I vowed vehemently, the anger more at my own thoughts than the decrepit cereal. The only way I'll leave here is if I'm dead. I have nothing left to lose. Hold on to that thought. His voice sounded like it came through gritted teeth. Here, this will help with the pain. More pills washed down with warm Coke. I never thought to ask what was in them. I didn't care enough to ask. For a dark moment, I wanted more, enough to stop the pain forever. But I wouldn't ask. A drugged death was too uncertain. If I had to die, I wanted to take at least one of them with me. For that, I needed my strength. So I needed to eat cardboard cornflakes and drink the Coke to sustain me until I could make them pay, at least in part, for my pain. More cornflakes until the pills brought more oblivion. 66. This was no fumble in a dark corner, at some school friend's party with a clumsy boy I barely knew. Nor was this a brutal assault that would leave me bruised and broken. Nathan handled me lovingly, like delicate china. He held his weight off me, his body hovering above me as his lips kissed mine, then a line of soft kisses down my breasts, firmer as his mouth dipped lower. His gentle hand stroked my thighs, pushing them further apart. I found I was holding my breath in anticipation, but I cried out in shock at the unexpected rasp of his tongue over sensitive skin. Caitlin, I don't want to hurt you or push you too far again. Angel, tell me if you want me to stop. His breath was warm on my skin as he spoke, so I barely heard the words. I couldn't decide if I was trembling with excitement or fear. His eyes looked at mine across the length of my body, worried. I forced myself to smile and slowly shook my head. Don't stop. Please, Nathan, don't stop. For if you do and my courage fails, I'll curl up and never let you or anyone else touch me again. He didn't stop again. Instead, he was wonderful. The first time was sudden and explosive. So lost in the sensation, I barely heard my own voice scream his name. I was too caught up in the vibration of his chuckling response. The second I thought I was more prepared for, a slow burn to a less powerful peak. I found I was lifting my hips to meet him as the warmth washed over me. His hands were firm beneath my backside, supporting me. Let me improve on that, Angel, he murmured and began again. The strokes were slower this time, a long, languorous selection of licking, sucking and stroking all blended together until I sobbed his name again. It struck me that I was sober and there was something else I wanted to do, for I felt so sensitive now I wasn't sure I could take much more. His gentle fingers stroked me again, driving me mad. "Stop," I begged him. "I want you to kiss me." Nathan moved quickly from between my legs and off the bed. The hiss of released gas left me looking around in shock. Nathan gulped down half of one of my little vodka drinks and smiled. I wondered how he'd brought them to the bedroom. The bottle clunked to the bedside table as he crept across the bed back to me. His kisses tasted of lemon. "Thank you," I said when he paused for breath. "You're welcome, Angel." "Any time," he murmured, leaning in for another kiss. I kissed him and pushed him, all in one smooth motion as we rolled together. I was on top once more. I didn't have the courage to do this any other way. I wasn't sure I had the courage now. I gritted my teeth as I felt the heat of him between my legs. I was terrified. My heart rate still hadn't slowed and my very blood was buzzing from his touch. The least I could do was reciprocate. I kept kissing him as I unzipped his fly and undid the button. My hands under his bum, I dragged his pants down over his hips as he sat up in surprise. Something in my eyes stopped his protest before he gave it voice. "Condoms?" I murmured between kisses. I couldn't look down. I felt cold at the thought of sex. Of letting him. My courage ebbing as fast as it came, I resolved to give him a blowjob. Both the least and the most I could do. I swallowed, hoping I'd be able to follow through with it. Oh God, I should have had more alcohol to drink. Maybe I wouldn't have been so scared. I could hear Nathan fumbling around with the bedside table. I heard the drawer slide open and glanced over as he reached for the box on top. There were plenty beneath it, all different. I looked at the box he handed me. Strawberry flavored, it said. You didn't expect this, but you sure as hell hoped, I thought grimly. I grimaced. Pity they taste more like bubblegum than strawberry. Better than bare latex, and damned if I'm swallowing for you, Nathan. He stuck out of the front of his checked boxer shorts like an empty flagpole. I pulled his shorts down too so he was bare to his thighs. I didn't want a mouthful of cotton. I stuck on his hot pink condom one-handed, kissing his mouth the whole time. Angels need 2 hands and instructions for this, Nathan. I gently massaged him with my hand. Not small but not enormous either. I could handle this. I moved quickly before I could waver in my resolve. I had a warm bubblegum-flavored mouthful before he regained the power of speech. What he did say came out sounding like moo. I sucked harder and felt him thrust in response. I almost choked. A reverent hand stroked my hair. You don't have to do this, Angel. I'm not a fucking angel. Or maybe I am. An angel of death, more like. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. No. No. Nathan's sudden shout scared me. He pushed me away. His face looked afraid and he visibly shrank away from me in more ways than one. What did I do? More tears welled up. I thought you were enjoying it. He wiped my tears away. You weren't. Everything I've ever done for you. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. All you have to do is ask. And you still wouldn't owe me anything, Angel. Least of all this. He gestured at his rapidly retreating arousal. I can do this, I insisted. He saw my scars. He saw the damage and didn't want me anymore. I'm sorry, Angel, but I can't. He stood up, turning his back as he pulled the condom off. As if he didn't even want to look at me anymore. I was too tired to deal with this now. If he didn't want the best blowjob of his life from the girl he loved, Then I wanted to curl into a tiny, unwanted ball and sleep. I'm tired, Nathan, I confessed. He was all attention, without a hint of disappointment or disgust. I'll find you one of my shirts to sleep in. I'll go wash up while you change. He threw the shirt to me and hurried out of the room. The used condom fluttered to the floor in his wake, limp and unloved. The opposite of me as I stretched out, skin now wrapped in shirt and sheet. Sensationally sated, yet saddened. 67. Would you like me to sleep on the couch or in here with you? I can sleep on the floor if you prefer, Nathan offered. My body was still buzzing as I reached out for him. Here's fine. Hold me, Nathan. I feel safer that way. He spooned up to me and I sighed as I relaxed into sleep. No, please wake up. No, you can't be dead. Caitlin, please wake up. I woke to Nathan's panicked voice as his hands patted me. I'm not dead. I think I'm not dead. No, I'm breathing. Definitely not dead. I stayed still, trying to keep my breathing even as I gathered my straying thoughts. My dream hadn't been bad. Angel, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh God. I swallowed and said, Nathan? It's just a dream, right? Caitlin. Please? I could feel his face through my shirt as he listened to my chest. My shirt felt damp from tears? Could he really be crying? It's okay, I murmured, cuddling closer to him. Angel? He lifted his head to kiss me lightly. It's okay. You're safe. You're safe? His arms tightened around me. I'm safe, I repeated, hoping it was true. If he hugged me much tighter, he might break my ribs. Safe, he murmured. I'll keep you safe, Angel. His grip relaxed a little. I waited for his breathing to become even before I dared to fall asleep again. His nightmares were getting worse and becoming more dangerous too. 68. Tied Micah, knife cutting blood. I screamed as hot pain sliced across my thigh. Hold still. You hold her still, she said. A warm body landed on my midsection, crushing me to the cold concrete. Denim-clad legs pinned mine down apart. Another slice and another scream. I can gag her too if it bothers you, ma'am, Mike said. No need. There's no one to hear her, she said carelessly. I heard the knife point scrape my skin, the pain a constant burn now. Shine that torch here. I want the letters clear. I tried to scream, but there was no voice left. A hoarse whimper was all the sound that came out. What the fuck are you doing? I rasped. She ignored me, intent on mutilating my body. She lifted the knife so it glinted in the torchlight. There. A little present for the ASIO boy. She looked down at my legs. No. I need to do the other one too. They must match. She stabbed the blade into my other leg. I cried out, but no one took any notice. You promised. You promised you wouldn't let them hurt me. I struggled, not caring anymore. Chris couldn't keep his promise and I couldn't keep fighting. I'd make them kill me instead. Oh shit. The knife dug too deep because you couldn't hold her still. Now she's bleeding everywhere. I must have caught a vein, we're out of time. She won't survive the night, bleeding like that. Send Chris in here. Make sure he knows where you've left the keys, so he can dump the body. Follow him and call the police as soon as you can. We need him caught with it. When did I become a sexless thing you could call it? Yes, ma'am. What do you want me to do with her? Mike asked. Knock her out so I can finish. I only need to cut one more letter. Something heavy collided with my face and darkness seeped into my head. 69. When the sun had risen, I woke alone to the sounds of Nathan speaking angrily with another girl. I pulled on one of Nathan's sweaters and approached closer to investigate, just in time to hear her call him a pedophile and me a child. His sister. The one who was my age. She had to be. But her words didn't make sense. If he was a pedophile and I was a child, he wouldn't have turned me down last night. She repeatedly warned him away from me as he protested, refused and defended me. Inwardly I cheered. "Can't you put the coffee away when you're done with it?" she muttered. He mumbled something about leaving it out for her. "I don't drink decaf. You're the only person I know who drinks coffee without caffeine in the mornings. Where's the point in drinking coffee that doesn't do anything?" I heard the clunk of glass on wood, before a cupboard door slammed. I wondered about Nathan and his distaste for caffeine. The only people I knew who preferred decaffeinated coffee had it in the evening, so they didn't have trouble sleeping. But Nathan, oh! Nightmares and insomnia, of course. I waited for his reply, but the silence stretched until she broke it, her words leaving me cold. "Not a girl who's been abducted. After she's been raped and God knows what else, the last thing she wants is a man anywhere near her. Least of all you." I needed to see Nathan's face, to see if her words had any effect on him. Quietly, I stepped into the doorway. Neither of them saw me for a moment. A thinner, angrier version of Alana whirled around and started swiping at the bench with a pot scourer. I wondered if their laminate benchtop would lose its surface beneath her frenzied scrubbing. She stood with her back to me, while I could see Nathan's profile as he watched her. He seemed to have trouble forming a response, but he didn't look happy. He rocked a little in his seat, like he was trying to exercise a memory. She shouldn't have used the R word. It had set off his guilt. Turning my attention to Nathan, I summoned a smile as I called his name. His smile and "good morning" left me feeling like I was his perfect dawn and not the pariah I'd felt like last night. Before the nightmares started. "Rescue me," his eyes pleaded. Thinking quickly, I asked for his help in the shower, hoping he wouldn't freeze up like he had last night. I needed to know if any of her warnings had sunk into his traumatized consciousness. And if last night was simply a result of him drinking too much, never to be repeated. He agreed and I left, but I'd barely made it 2 steps from the door before I realized he hadn't followed me. Carefully, I rested against the wall as I waited. I let my eyes roam around the ceilings, looking for the surveillance cameras that had to be here. His sister would surely have as much protection as I did. Yet I saw none. Maybe they'd used better technology for this house because she was more valuable. Or maybe there was no surveillance. I sat puzzling out what that meant as they shouted insults at each other for a bit longer. Nathan finally left, angry and upset, but he stopped as soon as he saw me. I stretched a hand out for his and let him help me to my feet. He held me tighter than usual as we walked together to the bathroom, as if he was afraid to lose me. "Don't worry, Nathan, I already know your alter ego is Mr. Sleazy Roommate. And last night you showed me you won't take advantage of me. A compunction I don't share." Once the bathroom door shut behind us and the shower water muffled our conversation, I resolved to find out whether he still wanted me after last night. His sister didn't need to know. I slid my hands up his shirt, caressing the firm muscles I knew were hidden beneath the fabric. He stiffened at my touch, but he didn't pull away. I tried to pull his shirt off, and he lifted his arms to assist me. So far so good. I pulled off my own sweater. My heart sank as he closed his eyes before he could see anything. Did my scars really make me that hideous? Was last night just a drunken mistake? Cautiously I pressed my naked body against his. He still had his shorts on, but they weren't much of a hindrance. I could feel his eager response to my proximity. "Would you like me to help you in the shower?" His breathless voice surprised me, as did his open eyes fixed on my face. The guilt wasn't gone, but it was fading. I smiled as I accepted his offer. His hands on my body were as tender as last night, lifting me into the warm water as he stepped into the shower with me in his arms. I looked down. His soaked shorts clung to his body, hiding nothing. "I'll keep it in my pants," he swore. I laughed, cupping his cheek as I kissed him. "How are we going to do this?" I murmured. His arms were full of me, and I couldn't wash myself with the two of us so close. He looked puzzled, like he hadn't planned this either. "I don't know," he said finally. "We don't have a chair I can stick in the shower for you here. Maybe, if I set you down on your feet, do you think you can hold onto me for support while I help you wash?" "If you like. I'll be a perfect gentleman, I swear." Somehow we ended up standing like dance partners in the shower, swaying a little under the warm rain. The promised perfect gentleman reached for the soap and proceeded to demonstrate his prowess, like a dishwasher with a delicate china plate. No passion, just professional boredom. I endured it, holding still as he caressed my body with the bar until I was clean. If I couldn't see his strange shorts, I'd have thought my bare skin had no effect on him. He clinked the soap back into its dish and placed his arms around me again, careful not to let my breasts touch him. "Now let's get you wet and you'll be all clean," he murmured, turning with me so more of the spray rained down on me. I chose my words carefully. "What if I'd prefer to be wet and dirty with you, Nathan?" He stared at me, shocked. What do you mean?" "Fuck, Nathan." I know you heard and understood the words. Should I have just said, "Finger me, Nathan," instead? With equal care I grasped his hand, pulling it down. "You remember what you did last night?" "I want to know I didn't dream it." I swallowed, already regretting my impulse. "Please?" His expression softened. "You were a dream last night. I never thought you'd trust me enough to let me touch you like this, let alone pleasure you like last night," he murmured, one finger lightly stroking. I shivered in relief. "Are you sure you want this?" "Oh yes." I threw my arms around his neck, kissing him deeply as his caresses deepened too. "Don't stop," I panted, before returning for another kiss. This kiss didn't cease until I collapsed against him, spent. He may have been an absolute dream, but Nathan was no nightmare, that was for sure. 70. Nathan's hands lingered dreamily on me as he helped me dress, as if the scars didn't deter him in the slightest in the light of day. I wondered what had turned him off so completely last night, if it hadn't been my body. The sound of crockery scraping in a metal sink reminded me of his angry sister. Perhaps I was asking the wrong person, she knew him better than I did. Nathan offered to help me to the kitchen and make me breakfast, but I shook my head. I'd never get her to be honest about him within his hearing. "You should go hang the towels up and get into some dry clothes," I suggested, glancing down at the prominent torch he carried for me in his soaked shorts. He flushed and grabbed the damp towels, mumbling as he strode away. I waited until I heard the toilet door close before I hurried to speak to Chris. I didn't know how long it'd take him to jerk off. "How long has he been having nightmares?" I asked softly as I entered the kitchen. "Since she went missing," she responded equally softly. "Has he slept with any girl since?" "He's fooled around with a few, but none of them ever stayed till morning," she replied. I felt a blush coloring my cheeks. Maybe it's because we didn't. She lifted her eyebrows at me. "Your brother's good with his hands and his tongue. Do you really want the details?" I took in her panicked expression. $50 says he's making use of his hands to relieve the pressure right now. Give him some credit. I heard the slam of a door. That was quick. She turned away from me, staring out the window. I followed her gaze to where Nathan was pegging the towels on the outside clothesline. I shrugged and started searching the kitchen, trying to work out what to have for breakfast. For a moment, I regretted not taking Nathan up on his offer of a full-cooked breakfast. I had a craving for bacon. He's not even making you breakfast? She asked, as if she'd read my mind. No, I talked him out of it, I replied in Nathan's defense. She stared at me in shock, as if she hadn't expected me to reply. How did you manage that? It's difficult to talk him out of anything. I warmed to the girl. She did know him and she was going to tell me what I needed to know, even if Nathan was listening. Maybe an insult would make him move out of earshot. Difficult? He's as stubborn as a mule. She evidently thought the same thing, laughing loudly as she agreed with me. Nathan's scrutiny didn't lessen. I'm Caitlin. Nathan seemed too preoccupied to introduce me before. I almost said rude, but she seemed to understand anyway. We shook hands as she introduced herself as his sister, Chris, exactly as I'd surmised. The girl he'd been trying to protect, as he'd let me get hurt. Was it worth it, Nathan? Shit, are you all right? She'd seen the pain in my expression. I think she took it for real pain instead of bitterness and heartache. No, but I will be one day, I replied carefully. I edged away from her, toward one of the kitchen chairs. My legs were cramping a little from the unaccustomed exercise, both last night and in the shower. She helped me sit down, her voice low in my ear. He didn't hurt you, did he? No, I whispered back. I'll make you a coffee. You just sit and rest. It still hurts you to walk, doesn't it? She said loudly. Not as much as it did at first, but it still does a bit, I agreed. I dropped my voice lower. Especially when I've done more than I'm used to. I felt my cheeks redden. She'd made no secret of the fact that she'd heard us last night, when she'd been shouting at Nathan earlier. I hoped we'd been quieter in the shower. Does he even know? She asked, turning to look at Nathan. Don't tell him. I'm recovering faster than he realizes. Let him play Prince Charming for a bit, I whispered. Prince Sleazy more like, she whispered back, before raising her voice to a more normal volume. I tried to choke back my laughter. Look, I don't know what you've been through, what they've done to you or anything. Just don't assume he's some kind of Prince Charming because he rescued you. He's nowhere near perfect, he'll probably just end up hurting you, breaking your heart. He's good at that. I wasn't even sure I had a heart left to break. I didn't dare confess that to his sister though. Do you think badly of me for staying last night? I asked instead. Her expression told me she did, but she evidently noticed my knowing look, and denied it. No, it's him, she insisted. What you want to do is your business, and you're not the first. Nathan had killed for other girls? Or let other girls get hurt? She saw my expression and hurried to explain. Not the first girl he's ever brought home, I mean. He'd come in late, not alone, and she'd be gone by morning. I've never seen or heard the same girl twice, except when they called to try to get in contact with him again. Well, if he was as good in bed as he was in the shower, it came as no surprise that his conquests would want more. I did. Have there been many since Alana disappeared? Or since he found me? I asked softly. It's been a long time since he brought anyone home, more than 2 months, but I'd have thought he'd know better than to seduce you or play on what he did for you. After all you've been through, you don't need him to hurt you as well. She addressed the last part of her comments out the window at Nathan, who hid behind a towel. She thought Nathan had seduced me. Hopefully he thought so too. I covered my smile with my coffee cup, drinking deeply. Alana warned me about him, but she knew he wouldn't be able to resist me. Chris set her cup down in shock. You knew her? How old are you? I lifted my gaze to meet hers. I'm the same age as you. He told me about you, so I knew. Her shock made me shorten my sentence. He hadn't told her anything. Was he trying to protect her? I knew who you were when you visited him in hospital. I'm sorry I wasn't awake enough to introduce myself then. The pain drugs kept me pretty out of it. He drops girls if they start getting too close. Just don't let him hurt you, she said. Don't get too attached, in other words. She might be my age, but she knew nothing about bastards who hurt girls. I smiled. Nathan. He wouldn't dare hurt me. He'd do anything to help me get well again. I took a mouthful of coffee that went down the wrong way. Coughing, I tried to find my voice again. He said he never wanted to see me hurt. I coughed again, harder. Through the window, I saw Nathan start toward the house. I heard the sound of a screen door opening and slamming. Are the dreams about her? Is he taking anything for them? I asked urgently. They used to be, but he got better after a while. Maybe it was the Demelza sleeping pills his doctor gave him, she replied in a hurried whisper. Now they're about you. And he doesn't have any pills left. He won't go to the doctor for more either. It's like he's afraid to admit how many he's taken. I don't know what to do to help him. He should stay away from you and anything to do with Alana, but he won't listen to my advice. He won't even talk to me. Nor me. My eyes filled with tears of pity for Nathan. He was doing his utmost for me and his sister, but he needed to heal more than I did. I was in no fit state to help him, I was my own mess. And his sleeping pills, he had none left because he'd given them all to me. To save me from pain. So self-absorbed, I hadn't noticed that he was hurting worse than me. Nathan's arms around me were a warm and welcome addition. I hugged him back, wishing I could take away his pain. What did you say to her? Nathan demanded. I looked up, but he wasn't talking to me. I don't know, Chris said. She gave me a meaningful look, like she wished we could continue the conversation. I wanted the opposite, time to reflect on what I'd learned about Nathan and his family, before asking her any more. After all, Nathan had told her very little about me for some reason, and I didn't want to burst her bubble that she lived in a perfect world where people didn't get hurt, kidnappings resulted in happy endings, and rape was something that happened to other people. I wished I had the same kind of bubble, but my soap had turned to scum in the hard water I'd been handed, and there was no changing it back. Time to clean up the mess and make the best of it. Of course Nathan would stand by me no matter what, until they were all dead and I was safe. Or would Chris be right, and he'd hurt me before he left me? I told them both that I wanted to go home. Are you sure? Nathan and Chris asked at the same time. I nodded. I'll be right. I have to be.